Good afternoon and welcome to our update on COVID-19 in Namibia. Today is Wednesday, the 18th of March 2020. With me today is editor of Namibian Sun, Toivo Jembela. Good afternoon, Toivo.
Afternoon, Danny.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, very quickly, before we proceed, it seems in parts of Namibia there were chaos today, especially on the borders. Ariam's Vlei, apparently there was miscommunication regarding the flow of commercial traffic, so that is goods. But that was cleared up later, so later this afternoon we were assured that all borders are open for commercial traffic. At least as far as people is concerned, there's still uncertainties whether what has been announced in terms of the state of emergency yesterday is being implemented in full. We'll talk about the situation at Oshikangu a bit later on. Toivo, there's also new directives sent internally to the police force of Namibia. What are those?
Yeah, so I've seen a confidential, if I can put it that way, communication from Police Chief Sebastian Deitunga yesterday to regional commanders and to heads of department within the police, basically saying that they have suspended all parades that the police do, that non-essential travel among police officers has been suspended, the visits to trial awaiting prisoners must be suspended, and also going to the extent of saying the trial awaiting prisoners must not be mixed with new offenders who are just joining in those facilities. So it's a sweeping sort of instruction which goes hand in hand with everything that we've seen lately as far as the government announcement is concerned.
Please follow our newspapers every daily in the print versions and also online. We're trying to keep everyone abreast of the changes and the announcements that are happening continuously, and also trying to answer where there are unclarities and questions. Let's look quickly at the official map of the World Health Organization. That is a bit earlier today. There's still under 8,000 deaths, that is globally, 164 countries, and the real live data indicate that is already more than 8,000. Toivo, I think when one looks at numbers, one must also be critical. So it's easy to say COVID has now spread to more than 75% of all countries. Yeah. But the numbers still, if you look at the entire world population, we know it's a serious illness. Yeah. But it's still low, so people should actually stay calm.
I think so. I mean, we've started seeing, Danny, if you compare what we have seen over the weekend, the commotion, the fears, the questions that everybody was posing to say, oh, what do we do now? Are we dying? And I was giving an example today of the people that I saw on Monday having masks here locally. And today I was going around and there was none of that. You could see that people have started understanding that, yes, it's serious, but not to the extent that we initially thought.
Coming to the official data announced today in terms of testing done in Namibia, we're bringing up that for you now. Now, this announcement was made at 11 by the Ministry of Health and Social Services for today, 18 March. Thus far in Namibia, a total of 24 people tested. Still only the 2 confirmed cases, 2 Romanian tourists that were quarantined, and a total of 22 of all these results has come back negative. Unfortunately, statistics were not given on other results that are still pending, and they are waiting for it, Toivo. So hopefully we can also start to get that from tomorrow. So just to tell people also, so in other words, those negative tests, all of them were of people that were in contact with these 2 that tested positive.
Yes.
But these things can change very quickly.
It can change. The picture can change very fast. What I've always wondered, and we've been trying to engage the authorities on this subject, but we never really got lucky to get any answers, was that flight from Doha that landed here, in which on whose board the two Romanian couple, or the Romanian couple, not two, were on board. That I wondered how many people were on that flight, and how many actually disembarked in Namibia, and whether that flight was in transit elsewhere, or everybody actually came here. So when I look at the number of people that were described as having been in contact with this couple, I wonder whether consideration has been made by about those who traveled with them here.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Kalumbi Shangula, his indication again was that they are still following up, they're still tracing people, but hopefully we can get that stats. One of the major areas of concern, not only in Namibia, globally, is in terms of the impact on stock markets, the value of your assets if you've invested in stocks, pension funds. And we bring you now an interview dedicated to this topic. Jomari Daddy spoke earlier to Tertius Liebenberg. He's the Managing Director at Capricorn Asset Management.
We're talking market volatility, and with us in the studio is Tertius Liebenberg. He's the Managing Director of Capricorn Asset Management. Cam, of course, part of a Capricorn Investment Group, who is listed on the local index of the Namibian Stock Exchange. Good afternoon, Tertius, and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tertius, we have been seeing extreme volatility in the markets, and the buzzword going around is that it is Corona. What exactly is happening?
Yes, Corona is what we see now, but there's a lot of things that happened in the market before Corona really became such a world event. So equity markets is, it's a normal thing in equity markets to be very volatile, and that's part of the market, in the market the whole time, see it all the time. But your normal investor, a normal person in the street that goes about with his day work, is not normally that tuned into that. But what the Corona caused is everybody tunes in now to the news, seeing what's happening with the virus as well as with markets. So in the past we've seen events like Brexit, recent events like Brexit, the ongoing trade wars between the United States and China. In recent times, when the first news came out about the coronavirus and worries about world growth due to a slowdown in economic activity, we saw that Saudis and the Russians couldn't agree on how to curb the fuel supply of the world, pumping oil. And they broke ranks, and that caused the oil price to drop to significant low levels, new levels. It actually dropped to $30 per barrel and even lower. As we speak, I think it's around there. So, so that caused already a problem, and now this panic about the virus causes a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty causes volatility. And part of that is also that you get what they call circuit breakers, where when the markets fall more than a certain percentage in a certain time or in a day, then the stock exchanges simply close down for a period. The New York Stock Exchange, for example, have a circuit breaker. If the market falls more than 20% in one day, it will close down for that day. But they have also intraday circuit breakers. So what happens is you have a lot of these option sellers, people trading and buying and selling options, which is a bit technical now, but what happens is these sudden moves trigger those instruments. And couple that with a lot of machine trading. Nowadays you have a lot of auto trading done by machines, and when these markets drop, these artificial intelligence or algorithms just kick in. So the whole market is selling. And that caused this serious drops, and that's why you have at least the circuit breakers for people to go back and think, and just think, is it really needed to go down, or should I sell at these levels? So that's really what's causing it. And of course the virus created a lot of uncertainty, because people worry, is it now the end of the world? I've seen this before. Personally, I was very involved in the time in the markets with 2008 subprime crisis. You really think it's the end of the world. You think nothing will ever be the same again. And then a couple of months or a year or two later, everything is back to normal. And you look back and you say, why did we think it's the end of the world? And shouldn't we have maybe even be more aggressive in the markets, which is very difficult. But that's what's causing the volatility. It's not only the virus, but it's the perfect storm that's created by all these events coming now together.
The one thing that concerns the average man in the street is my pension money safe?
Yes, of course, the question is, where is your pension fund money? But normally, the most of us would be in a large pension fund, or we would have our own retirement annuity with a life insurance company. And typically that would be spread between a balance between cash, bonds, property, equity, and then also the same asset classes abroad. So that is typically a well-balanced portfolio. But in times like this, it does drop because there would be typically, for a younger person, a 30% to 40% equities in such a portfolio. So if the equity markets, which have dropped roughly 25% now, that means that 20 to 30% of your have dropped with 25%. At least there's other asset classes in there that that haven't dropped, like cash and bonds, and that will help the whole portfolio, seen as a whole, not to drop that much. So I would expect not more than a 10% drop on an overall typical portfolio. Then the second thing is, or the important thing is how old you are. Normally we've seen these market drops to recover in 18 months to 2 years. And so I would say if you 3 years or more from retirement, you should be fine. Just important to stay in the market and not exit now, because you need that recovery bump that will come. We just don't know when to recover back to where you were before. If you're very close to retirement and you have been very aggressively invested in the market, the important thing is, as you retire, to take your third and be very important that 2/3 that's left, keep that in the market. When you go into the next phase, what we call an ILA, of investment-linked life annuity, after retirement, that's the typical product. Remain in the market, because you will also need that kick in the prices that comes whenever it comes, but it will come, we just don't know when, to actually let you retire for many years with an adequate pension. If you go to cash now, you realize your loss and you will never recover. That's a certain fact.
What are some of the things that investors should not do at the moment?
Yes, I think, of course, I think the first thing is don't panic. And I know it's difficult to say that, because everybody, we all worried about the virus. But that's the one thing. And I'm not a medical person, but if you look at it, it seems not to be that terrible a virus. It's only the spreading is easy of it. In terms of your investments, don't over panic and do crazy things now. Sit back, just think a bit, give it 2 or 3 or 4 days. You will get calmer if you do that. And just think of your investments and don't overreact. The next thing you shouldn't do is to just now go and sell everything to cash. It's too late. The markets have dropped. So all you will do is you will realize your losses, and you remove the chance of getting back to where you were before. And the last thing I would say is, be careful not to try to spot and get the next big thing. Maybe that's more important for young investors, the millennials, thinking you can pick the Sassels or the shares that drop significantly. Believe me, they can still drop a lot further. There's been sell-off in many of those by professional investors who have reasons why they sold it. And it's not to say if those things dropped, they will get back to where they were before. Or it will be probably a few decades, if so. So be careful to speculate. Unless you have a few bucks lying around, you like the fun of it and it won't hurt you. of course, then you can do it.
Sound advice. Thank you very much, Tertius.
Thank you.
There some very important advice there on the financial front. When one looks at those graphics of the stock markets, obviously the NSX and some others are more or less where they were about beginning of January because of Brexit and the trade war between China and the USA. But the advice is to stay calm. And economically also, we as Namibians must make sure that the heat of this virus isn't much worse economically than it can be medically.
Yeah, I think my fear is for smaller economies like ours. And you could read between the lines why government is trying to tread very carefully how to deal with South Africa in particular as a main trading partner, that somehow they are being conservative in not closing everything, so that you maintain that flow of business.
We're going to quickly look at some visuals sent from the regions by our journalists. Some of them are still on their way to their destinations, but we're going to look at some footage from Ontangwa by Esther Kamati, Ileni Nanjatu. He was in Oshikangu today, and there's also some footage from Rundu. Let's look at it.
My name is Kukengwa. I think coronavirus, the nation did not understand well the coronavirus it is. Because if you find the people speaking about coronavirus, they are just saying these temporary diseases which cannot do anything to the people, and they are not afraid for it. I think the Ministry of Health, they must stand up and they do something more so that people can understand what is the coronavirus.
Yeah, my name is Ndeumane Jesaya, a resident in Chicago town. So I'm just cover myself with the gloves and mask on myself because of this disease, coronavirus. It is very dangerous to my own understanding because it can transmit even to more than 1,000 people within a minute, you know. And it is safe to cover yourself like this in order to be at the safe side, whether it's not really necessary, whether it's not really perfectly, you can't cover 100%, at least you need to cover yourself.
Okay, so this is what I see right now. It's not quite as occupied as I would expect it to be. I was chatting with some of the store managers earlier on, and they told me that the places have not been getting as many customers after the announcement of the coronavirus. And checking on some of the shelves, I realized that mostly the hand sanitizer and hand wash is out of stock, as in sold out. The shelves are empty. However, there are some stores that are taking preventative measures in terms of giving their staff members some gloves to work with, and I saw ShopRite was sanitizing their shopping carts earlier on. And then other stores, for example, Big Daddy, I was informed that the store hasn't really taken any measures in protective wear or hand sanitization, but the employees have taken their own initiative and have bought gloves for themselves to wear while on duty.
First, can you just tell me how you feel about if council has to close down the open market?
The feeling is not good.
Okay.
Since that, business, when a business stands, there's a lot of loss. Like me myself now, I'm having orders, so I cannot lift this machine. It's big. I cannot lift it and take it home. So my customers will be disappointed, and even if the market closes, I don't know when it will open.
Yes.
So I have to be worried.
Okay.
We talking market volatility.
Quite interesting there, Toivo. Informal business, the market, it seems, you know, there are major concerns. We see some of those pictures was of the market, traditional markets in Ondangwa. Some of it is closed, some of it is not closed, and like the trader in Rundu explained, he's really concerned about his income, but also about the virus itself.
Yeah, I think Danny, people thought this whole thing is cosmetic. This is very, very serious. So as much as we are very, very happy to know that the number of infections has not increased since the first ones were reported, at the grassroots, people are suffering. This is the livelihood of people who rely strictly on that. It's not like you and me, perhaps, who have a job. Some of them, those compatriots, only rely on that. And but what is encouraging in all of this is to know that people actually understand at that level. People still understand and are therefore keeping away from crowded places, and that is encouraging for me.
Just to summarize then, the situation at Oshikango is that it seems people are still moving freely from, that is, Namibians into Angola, Angolans into Namibia. A lot of them are traders as well. The Ministry of Immigration has said stories doing around again that some Chinese people are now entering the country through Oshikango, trying to not go through Siga Kutaku. That is absolutely no truth in that. So it seems that picture over the next couple of days about the movement of people on the borders can still change. It seems the information or what government wants in terms of Namibians not going out and is not happening.
You see, my fear with Oshikango in particular is we are not very clear what the Angolan authorities are doing to sensitize our people. So there is no point in having Namibians very aware of the dangers of this disease, but they are mixing with people who are potentially unaware of this whole thing. So if the Angolans are not doing the same as Namibians, then there's a bit of danger there.
There are calls by people up in Oshikango as well as in Katima, Mulilo and Rundu that the government should completely close its borders, but of course that will have a very negative economic impact. Toivo, one last question, because Esther, for example, said from Ondangwa, it seems the Shebeens are still doing good business, and for a lot of people, I see this on social media as well. They're asking, but you know, why aren't we closing the Shebeens and the bars?
Yeah, I think that is a question, very pertinent question, because that is where already you have big crowds of people. Hygiene in most of these places is not very assured. If you go to the toilets and all these ablution facilities, they are most of the time not in good condition. So one wonders what kind of messages the authorities are giving to bar owners, because that is the one area that you cannot afford to compromise.
On the other hand, you can't discriminate, so you can't close all restaurants and bars because you still need that economic input. We don't have the money like a USA or a United Kingdom who can spend billions and trillions just to sustain businesses because they are closed. Another message then from you. This was also filmed by Esther at Ondangwa at the mall there, and this is a hairdresser giving her message to fellow Namibians in her own language.
Can I start? O aeva olike she onga kwa shwana Namibia o twilonge kidako mbinga yonkiso tudite wa holo kamo Namibia okukucheike onkiso o natutambuleko ulinga shuli ngengo takutiwa la amena ngengo to dulu na unoma kwafo uete kuchuna shiapu to dulu kuponshinda shoe uete na yapumbwe kwafo na tuyanje nyoma kwafo kuva kwetu opo tula ameneni kombinga yonkiso ungaha.
Toivo, just summarize that quickly for us in a couple of sentences.
Yeah, so basically she's emphasizing, she actually says that she understands the severity of this virus and that it's actually a reality, it's not a myth. And basically saying people must take care of themselves, and those that are capable financially, that they must extend their hand of help to those who are not, to the less fortunate, essentially, in terms of logistics.
Thank you very much, Toivo, for your contribution. You can join us tomorrow again after 5 in the afternoon, and we'll be sharing information on COVID-19 until the 29th of March at least, and then we'll decide if we're going, if there's the need to share information for a longer period. Stay safe.
Ulang was that?